Well, if I have uploaded this, this is basically me shooting the breeze. Yeah, I just have some soda around here. Maybe later I'll get some coffee. I'm getting some games playing and talking about, well, anything really. I'm gonna restart. I have started this game a few times now. No, wait. I didn't really have to restart, but I'm just because I want to go back to the first map and train a little. And so this is Witch Haven, as you've seen. And this is me shooting the breeze and playing Witch Haven, because I like this game. It's a little stiff. That's from '94, this game. I hadn't played this before. I actually scored this game by on GOG. Witch Haven 1 and 2, by the way. It's on sale right now. It cost me $1.25, sort of. And I loved it. It reminds me a lot of Hexen and everything. Which, by the way, broke my heart, because the fact that I can't really play Portal of Privas anymore, oh man, it devastates me. I used to have the CD as well for Portal of Privas, but I got rid of it a few years ago. I had boxes for Hexen 2 and Portal of Privas, but I had to give them away. So nowadays, it's just GOG. And this game reminds me a lot of that, of those three games. So yeah, I actually, the instant I bought this baby up, I actually fell in love with it. Amazing game. Controls fairly well. Has some weird, I wouldn't say weird, but interesting decisions by Tingler. So this is me walking here. This is me strafing. I don't know why, but when you strafe on water, it's basically the same speed as if you were strafing outside of it. It's fine by me. Little quirk. I need to get the pacing of this game yet. Not really used. I don't really know anything about the story of this game. I'm gonna have to read the manual. And points for this game, because I actually love when a game makes me go out of my way and read the manual or draw a map on my table. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. I love it. I think it turns the gaming experience into a way more complete and more interesting experience overall. So yeah. Hold on a second. So I think that's I don't know. I just like it, you know. It's one of those things that, to me at least, Jesus, I'm taking tons of damage here. Check. Okay, I can do this. Through the bridge here. Wow, look at this. I mean, of course, it's pixelized. It's the graphics are low end, but man, it's just oozing elegance. Come on, it's oozing elegance. No, wait. Okay, check. We have any secret bats over there? Let's just this. The door. Come on. Ooh. Ooh. that's the way we reacted to a mace in your face, or a morning star in your face. Ooh. Come on, man. What the crap? Did you enjoy that? Jesus. Or you... Either that or you didn't feel anything. I mean, I'm not massaging you. Love this gorilla-like attribute of these enemies. But as I was saying, when the gaming experience actually transcends the game itself, damn, I love that. Just love it. It's sweet. So that thing will break my hand by a long hour. Nice, Kelly. The Damantine ring. I have no idea what this thing does. One thing I know though, I'm gonna break this. And so yeah, like for example, I was playing one of these days. I was playing Heroes of Might and Magic. I'm actually doing some stuff with it that I want to put down on the channel. And I was playing it, and of course, it's just like Warlords, the first game. It's just that board in front of you, the map, and have fun. You know, that's it. And you have to look at the menu in order to understand what the crap is going on. So, in order to understand what the keys do, how you know, Heroes of Might and Magic is still a bit more a bit friendlier. You get something like Space Empires or Warlords. My God, there's just no freaking way you're gonna understand that without reading the manual first. You know. All right. Just... What's this? Strength potion. Fine by me. Yeah. Yeah, you die. Stay down. Well, now I have fire resistance. Let me just run small thing here. As you can see, I've been... Let's save been hard at work here. Okay, so... Okay, so I died impaled. Not burned, impaled. So yeah, as I was saying, it's a friendly game in a sense. Okay, can I jump through? Okay, that helped. Thank you. Through the side here, and I like the way they did through this map. I can get shields. Look at that. I mean, I love when you see these are the kinds of things that I find that comprise good design in a game. Anyway, one thing at a time. As I was saying, Heroes of Might and Magic is a game that, in a sense, it kind of does a trick for me when it pushes you to read the manual first, because it actually wants you to accompany the story. So you go to the manual in order to understand a few things, but at the same time you get to read the story of Lord Iron Fist through a bunch of letters that he actually sent to his liege. And it's so freaking cool because it actually shows that he has rebelled against the guy because he lost his fiancée to him. He kind of usurped the throne and kind of usurped, took the hand of his maiden, his promised woman. And yeah, patriarch goes too much, of course. But and it actually shows that it shows up some interesting people. That was awesome. So worth the potion. So it actually shows you, shows the struggles that this guy had to endure, you know? And as the letters, as you read the letters, you realize that he has actually become one of the four lords that the lord that you play more specifically during. I'm stuck here. And it actually shows you it actually shows how the other lords began to fight this guy and how he actually became a lord in this new world that he found. So it's really, really cool. So that's a first, you know, that's already a plus for me at the very least. And then there's there's the fact that you will actually need the reference in order to manual in order to play the game, because it's for its time it was a very complex game. I mean, you look at it today, it doesn't have so many units or anything, but it's a very complex game in a sense. So I have to jump down if I want to go down from here. Well, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna use the stairs, which I'm gonna jump and risk exploding there. And although I can always save, and I'm gonna try just to see what happens. And as for the rest of it, the game actually lets you explore around. You know, must be on the ground. Okay, now I'm on the ground for you. Look at the sound of this menu, man. Nothing particularly bad happened. Fine. I wish I could run down there. If I still had one of the potions, I would throw myself down to see what happens. I could get stuck there. But anyway. And, yeah. Open this door here. I mean, Warlords is an interesting game in and of itself, and I'd say that it does the trick, kind of does the trick as well, because I like the design because it just tosses you on this huge map with other factions, and you have, basically it says to you, you're a lord. Hey there, you're a lord. There are other lords. You need to defeat these lords. Good luck. And then you have it's an intuitive interface. If you're used with games from that age, it's kind of intuitive. So it actually lets you experiment with stuff. I mean, that's the coolest things in design for me at least. So yeah, in this game it kind of does it for me as well. You know, it has managed to get my attention by doing two things that I find mostly interesting. The first one, it actually pushes me towards the manual. I mean, the key bindings and the commands, they aren't really complex. They're way simple. If you're used to play, for example, roguelikes, or to play strategy games, to play anything really, because the games actually got way more complex nowadays. If you're gonna play something as simple as an action game or a brawler game nowadays, you're gonna have, for the most part, the games are gonna get way more complex than they used to be. For example, just for the sake of an example, it's a very different style, a very different genre of game. But I used to play Streets of Rage back in the day. Nowadays, the version that we have of Streets of Rage is entirely, it's based on the latest entries in the series from back in the day, which is awesome, by the way. But it's also way more complex than, say, the first Streets of Rage, and even the games that you would find on arcades back in the day, like Final Fight, TNMT, stuff like this. you need more buttons because you have way more commands. It actually mixes up more than one game style, more than one, you know, type of game. I loved that. That was actually produced in Streets of Rage 2, and I loved it. The fact that they mixed up a final fight with some elements of Street Fighter, and you actually could pull. It wasn't nearly as complex as a fighting game, of course, but you could actually pull certain types of commands, such as that uppercut from Axel, and sorry, you could pull those things in game, you know, by putting a small, a very brief sequence with proper timing, a special move, you know. Not to mention that you had special moves inserted into the game, and like you have, if you get the new game, for example, it's all about you're forced to use, in a sense, the many combos you have. Okay, this is not working. The many moves you have in order to coordinate your enemies and make them bounce so you can get larger, better combos. So I love this mechanics, you know. So you can actually pull long combos in your game because of this, longer combos in your game because of this. Another thing that I find extremely enticing is the way that they worked characters and the bonuses. It's actually a very enriching experience that you have. So the games, my point is that games are way more complex nowadays. Way more complex. Even simpler, what we assume. Wow, Jesus, that was entirely on me. Even formulas that we consider to be more straightforward, you know. And they know what they are doing with. Developers know what they are doing with the commands and the stuff that they present, they introduce. So this is very, very interesting as well. Let's just pull down. Okay, let's go. So these are things that I actually find very, very attractive in game nowadays. Okay, let's start from here this time. And yeah. So if you get a game like this, it has a certain degree of complexity. It's a bit like Hexen, but it's more complex than it would be there. It's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of other games like, it's still simpler than like System Shock. People call it a first-person RPG, and by the time I first played that game, I actually had this impression. But it's still way simpler than games made nowadays. And yet, I like the levels of complexity that I find here. So, because of this, you kind of have to go to the manual, you know. I actually couldn't understand how half of these things would work unless I went directly to the manual. You know, if I don't refer to the manual, I'm not going to be able to find my way through this. Simple as that. Just see. Yeah, I'm almost dead here. There's a potion there. But then again, let me see. And then there's a second aspect that I actually love about these games, which is the... I don't even know what that does, to be quite honest. Didn't get it. Yeah, it took some damage. Pentagram. What does the pentagram do? That's the question. Gotta go to the manual again, of course. And so yeah, this just let me just focus a little bit here. See if I can survive this. Why won't you die now? One of them's down. Maybe the other one's just gonna kill me. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Okay. So, as I was saying, there's that. There are certain designing aspects that I love. The fact that the game just tosses you into some situation and tells you, yeah, have fun, do whatever you want, find out how this works, enjoy yourself, you know? So, yeah, I deeply appreciate that. I'm trying to run through this area here. I deeply appreciate that. And how smart games actually will not do you the... What's this? Will not push you towards that, let's do a tutorial thing. Let's obviously do a tutorial thing. So you can... Yeah, this doesn't. Screw you, I'm leaving this map. That's what I can do to survive now. Because I'm not gonna be able to drink that and fight these two guys. Alright, let's try to figure out this map then. And yeah, so I find it to be constantly annoying, so to speak, when you have these ridiculously obvious tutorials, you know. Actually breaks the enchantment of playing a game. But when you said, I was playing one of these days, I was actually playing Star Control, the second Star Control. The first one is actually interesting, for example, because it just tosses you, just say the great battles of Rook One, and then it tosses you into a game that basically you can actually play chess with spaceships, and that's it. It says pick a map, pick an enemy, enjoy yourself. You know, sit down with a friend, pick a map, pick a friend, have fun. And then the second one actually starts with a very interesting, very elaborate story in which the Uruk-one have conquered Earth. So you don't know that yet, because at first you just received this mission. You go back to where you're part of a scientific mission for the Alliance. You're stuck in a planet. And because of this, you have no way of going back, right? Going back to Earth. Yeah, serves me well. Going back to Earth and use the shield. I'm gonna die here. Use the shield. Release the kill for me. That's good people in there. Yay! Now I'm immune to fire. mad at me, brah. Now what you're gonna do, huh? Take it. Take it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hurts, doesn't it? Hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. Stay down. And sorry about that. I hate these guys. And it's kind of like by the first time you're tossed when the game starts. I thought at first that I was gonna be sent in a mission to reach out Earth. You know, that's the first thing that occurred to me. Oh, so they're gonna send me to Earth. The game's gonna start. I'm gonna have to go through the. I'm gonna have to go FTL style in this journey that will take me through strange places and bizarre worlds, and then eventually I'm gonna reach Earth. And that's gonna be like the first part of the end of the game. No, you start the game at the solar system, and you don't even know it because it's weird, you know. It's just this star system with planets around, and that's it. And then you sort of have to figure it out yourself. So first things first, you actually try to. The game doesn't even tell you, oh, push WSAD or whatever. You know, it just tosses you there and then lets you play around. So you see a planet. What the first thing you do? Okay, I'm gonna try to reach this planet. So the perspectives start to change, and suddenly you have kind of you're kind of running around this map. And it actually approaches and shows you a world you can visit, and then you visit this world, visit this planet, and suddenly you discover that that planet is Mars. And you say, what's going on? Because this doesn't really look as the solar system at all. So okay, then you see this red orb, and around it this way smaller white one, and you think that should be Earth. I mean, that's the moon, right? So you go there and you discover, and before you reach that area, there's this little drone that says that you're invading Urquan space. You're unidentifying. It's basically gonna tell mommy on you, and it's gonna call someone to kick your ass. And then, okay, fine. It actually informs you that it is forbidden to try and visit Earth without permission. And fine, that's it. Basically, you're basically trespassing already. You're inadvertently trespassing. So, okay. Next natural step is that you try to find somewhere that you can actually visit, and you discover that there is this huge space station just by the side of Earth, and then you decided, obviously, you're going to decide to go there. So these are intelligent things that I mentioned. You know, you're actually being invited to engage in the symbiotic game. The developer is actually leaving you hints. You don't have to guess or second guess yourself. It actually understands the language that you're going to use, the visual language, the visual cues that are going to attract you. It understands colors. It understands movement. It understands how the keyboard works. How you're going to work your way with a controller or a keyboard in order to get a better understanding of your surroundings. It understands what you're going to do in order to try and fixate yourself in space. So it takes this risk, you know, the risk of doing more than just developing a simple game, just pushing out a simple game. And I thought I had to kill these guys. Where are they? What the crap did I just do? You see, that's intelligent design, you know. You see a different door, you open that thing, and you listen, you overhear this ominous sound. And that skeleton just starts moving. I mean, there it is. You know, could give me that sword of yours, couldn't you? Just boost up my strength. Oh yeah. Now I'm gonna punch her face. Thank you. Give me the sword. No sword. Ah. Fine, I'm gonna use the strength I have to punch you in the face as well. So fist against fist. A battle of titans. Oh yeah. And it feels so good. Hero time. Oh, my attacks are faster. That's what hero time does then. Okay. I like this room. And so, I mean, the developers actually understand what they are doing. I'm not saying that all the developers don't. That's not what I'm saying, but there are different skills when you develop something, of course. I don't know if big teams actually understand. They are actually so they have the freedom to attempt certain things anymore. You know, like there's one thing I like Hero 6, for example. Might have mentioned Hero 6. I don't like it as much as I like Heroes 3, for example, which is a game that actually demands that you read the manual, as I mentioned, and all these things. And it actually shows you, it gives you hints of what you're doing in a sense, and it's not working out. I don't have the strength anymore. I have a weapon, I don't have any weapons, but I need that. So I need that goblin to fall down and give me a sword. You're not gonna give me a sword, are you? No. Fine, so I'm just gonna have to punch my way through. I can use spells, of course, always. And but what I mean to say is that you can't it's just not coding, it just doesn't resume itself to programming, coding, timing, etc, etc, etc. Yeah, come here, come on. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna let you go out just with the bloody nose. Because that's what I do. Yeah. I'm actually liking, I'm actually digging using my fists to beat these guys in submission. Look at that. I'm actually really fast. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of designing that actually takes place in there, and it's not just how am I gonna put this, because I'm not really a designer, so it's kind of hard for me to find the right words. But I would say that I find certain aspects of game design to be nowadays to be too streamlined, in a sense. If that makes any sense, by the way. I mean, certain choices are. It looks like they are deliberately made just to. What's this, man? Deliberately made just to get rid, just to rid the experience of potential problems. You know? I mean, that's basically the main. This is an important part of the definition of design. I would agree in that. I mean, design is basically taking a look at the situation, understanding a problem, and trying to develop solutions, creative and elegant solutions for the problem at hand. So if I am to design, for example, a living room, I'm going to try and understand who's going to live in that living room, what are the aesthetic tastes of these people, how will they use that environment. Will they sit there? Will they rest there? Will they watch family movies in there? How many people are gonna occupy that space? Are they party people or not? Or aren't they party people? Do they like to have drinks when they watch their movies? Do they like to play video games? Do they need space to exercise? Whatever. And then I'm gonna build the space, trying to find solutions for that are aesthetically interesting and perfectly functional to the lifestyle that I'm trying to address. So in a game, it's kind of like the same. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna try to find solutions to make the player understand with a certain effort what he or she should be doing in any given situation. Frack. I mean, I'm gonna grant them opportunities to experience the game, you know. So the design here, for example, and again, like this design is actually interesting. I mean, I sat down and played for an hour. I hadn't read the manual, but I could just marginally play the game at first, and then I began to understand the principles. And one or two things I actually browsed through the manual and found, and then I could play, you know. More than that, the game actually lets me loose in the world map, and it lets me discover how to play it, how to play within this world, you know. So the game actually does that for me. It actually allows me to experience the game. One of the things I hate the most when people build tutorials is when you have wall text in tutorials. I mean, give me the manual then. Let me just direct me towards the manual and say, read the manual. You can even give me a written tutorial in a manual. I'll find it more enticing and more interesting than wall text tutorials, you know. So yeah, I mean, and this is something that I find alarmingly common in game development nowadays. You will have you have, for example, games that let's take Might and Magic Hero 6. As I mentioned, I like that. I actually love what they did with it. I like Heroes 3 a lot more. Heroes 3 and Heroes 4 a lot. I'm not gonna lie. But I actually find those games. I actually find M&M6 to be a charming game. You know, it's a fairly interesting game, a very charming game in many respects. It's a game that it actually wins me over when it's not because of the by the time that it actually came out, they decided to mesh an interesting amount of things that were happening back in the day and that were popular in fantasy literature and fantasy shows. So they went the let's get political sort of way for their game, and they incorporated elements from Game of Thrones, for example. Is it creative? Yeah, kind of. I mean, they got inspired by it. There's that Warcrafty kind of visual style that kind of worked for that game, but they could have gotten more creative with it. But okay, it works. I like it. I personally like it. So fine. It's fine by me. And then they come out and they start building their story. So there's a lot of interesting aspects there. I mean, you start the game starts when Jesus. The game starts with you just this and this. The game starts with you fighting with you start with a human that decided to embrace orcs in his land, and that created an internal war in the Empire. So yeah, okay, interesting. And then there's this huge amount of political interest going on, you know. So there's this other duke that decides to use the situation to swallow parts of your land. That's very interesting as well. And then there's this, basically you're telling the story of this family, the Griffin family, and how they become enemies of the Empire at a certain point, and then how they become politically how they increase their political strength again in order to maintain the family in its place, and how they beat the wolf lineage into submission, and so on. And then the story unfolds. The father dies, and the story unfolds by as his 4 or 5 sons they go their separate ways, and each of them becomes one of the other faction lords. So it's an interesting story. It's an interesting way of introducing the factions and so on. It's very cool, It's a very interesting campaign. The execution, not so interesting. Why? Because it actually builds the most linear maps possible, just in order for you to learn whatever elements you have to learn from the game. So instead of doing that intelligently, like I have described just now with Star Control, they actually decide to go another entirely different route, and they actually push you through a certain road, a literal road that will basically force you to certain choices. That's the point. I hate the fact that they force you to choose certain ways of playing, just because they are trying to teach you how to use the mechanics in the game. That's so gameful. I mean, charm of computer game design is that you get to do things that simulate reality at a certain level. I mean, it's as if they were simulacra, or maybe a little models of reality. Simulacra, they would never do this unless we actually AI. Sorry. Unless we actually develop these virtual reality sets to a point where they actually fool us. But at least models, So when you break that suspension of disbelief that a game is supposed to offer, this actually breaks the fun, and that's kind of what happens. For example, I will discuss that in another video, I guess. Try and do a video for Eminem 6. Heroes of Might and Magic 6. Wow. And, okay. Oh, I can do above. Sorry. I mean, they don't profit from what they have. So, for example, when the father, I guess it's Zlava. I guess it's Zlava, his name. When Zlava starts investigating the situation around his lands, one of the things that's important to understand is that Heroes of Might and Magic is all about the way you build your heroes within a certain map. So having the alternative of knowing, of choosing what I'm gonna conquer first and what I'm gonna leave out for later, is a very important thing. You know, it's a very big part of the game. I mean, it's what makes Heroes 3, for example, a great game. If in Heroes 3 I decide to play a match, for example, any match that I get is gonna have maps that are maybe symmetric, maybe asymmetric, but the point is that it doesn't matter how it goes. I'm gonna have the opportunity to choose whatever way I want. You know, I can conquer. I can conquer and take over the mindsets and the little cities in any way I want, in the order I want. For example, I can. There are several things that I can do in any way I choose, in any way I want. You know, and this is part of the fun of the game. I get to do things the way I want. I get to understand what resources I'm going to need first. I get to understand what kind of units I'm going to use first. I mean, I don't have to have all the units right off the bat, because I can just play matches if I want to do so. But it would at least be interesting to have choices, you know, within the game. And they actually put me through this tutorial that is basically an avenue, and I have no choice. So, as I was saying, for example, so you conquer a city, then you go south, then you generally the areas, they open to each other in a certain order, and you get to choose what kind of stacks you want to face earlier or later. And part of the game is actually, part of the interest of the game is actually trying to build soldier stacks that are strong enough, in a sense, so you can find ways to anticipate certain fights, you know. That never happens there, for the simplest of reasons. You have no way of circumventing troops, of speeding up troop production. You have no way of doing this. You have a limited amount of resources, and you can't really that's not really negotiable. Can I shoot you? Weird face. Yeah, I can shoot you. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna help. And yeah, so I mean, there is no experimentation within these first hours of the game, you know? And you're gonna say, wow, it's just a tutorial, but that's my point. I'm playing a tutorial session in Start Control, a game that's, I don't know, 30 years old or so, and the game actually lets me do my own experiments. The game actually trusts that I'm not gonna be a complete twat, you know. The game actually respects me by allowing me to get the tools that it gave me and test them out. You know? I'm just gonna run across because I don't have any weapons here. Now I got a short sword. This might help. And yeah, I mean, so the game actually doesn't really want me to play it. It's kind of like the developer got jealous of what they built, and he keeps saying, no, don't go out of the line that I built for you. It's so beautiful, and you should want to play it. Give me a reason to play your game, you know? So that's one thing. Also, it just I'd say it just breaks up the way that the player is gonna educate himself to play the game, you know. because you're not sending him the right signs, you're just forcing him to do what you want. So for example, you want him to understand, Barony does this in a lovely way. It actually has the Hall of Trials. That's a very intelligent way of doing this. It has a tutorial section. I mean, the Hall of Trials is basically this. It's a tutorial. It's a separate tutorial. And what I love the tutorial is because it actually invites you. It's not just saying, look, this is a tutorial section. It's a separate game. It's like a game mode. And then it basically says, look, I'm gonna teach you, but this is inside the world of the game. Okay, so you need training. I bet one could even fit it within the lore of the game without breaking it. And then it just shows you how to move around, how to use the complex tools that it gave you. They're not that complex, but you have a lot of buttons. It shows its little roguelike blood there. And what's cool about it is that it's not a chore to play. Then why isn't it a chore to play? Why is it so nice, so interesting to play that? Okay. Why is it so interesting to play that session, especially if it's just a tutorial, a separate tutorial? Why would it be a pain in the ass to play? You know? And it's not. And then why not? Why isn't it why is it so nice to play? Now that's the point. First, the text is well written. I mean, free game. It's not Shakespeare, but it is a well written section. You know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Oh, I actually thought I would be able to kill that guy first. Anyway. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It understands that it is a tutorial, a silly tutorial, you know? And by understanding that, it gives itself space to... I mean, look at this. Look at this and tell me that there's not something major about to happen. I mean, I'm gonna be very at some point. It's not. This. And you find this surrounded by lava. Look, a dead monster. You know, these are little signs. You don't have to tell me everything. I mean, it's baffling for me that people actually got so into DS, into Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and said, "My God, this is so well done." I mean, those are the signs that I was expecting to see in any game, man. Minus the convoluted story. But my point is, it doesn't really. It's not really so. It's well done. I mean, it's well done. Minus the Budweiser portraits in the treatise within. I guess it was the S2 or the S3. I don't remember. They actually took pictures of the trash and never really took care of contemporary references that appeared in there, like bicycle wheels, Budweiser cans, and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm baffled to see that people actually found that so amazing. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's amazing. It's well done and all. But it's nothing so out of the ordinary. Wow, this map's really making things weird. It's not so out of the ordinary that it should award a prize or something like that. That only serves to show that, in a sense, developers have gone out of their way to just explain the rules almost as if they were using one of those board game booklets that you staple to the back of the box, you know. I mean, I mean, it just shows that there's something wrong with what's mostly understood as game design nowadays. And as I was saying, for example, Might and Magic Hero 6, it's so narrow. The path that you are given is so narrow that you just don't really get involved in the game. The story is actually interesting. The concept for the story, because it's not well written. There are dialogues that are cringeworthy. They are awful, really awful. And there are some dialogues that are marginally interesting. The concept is interesting, so I want to understand and know what happens to the characters. But at the same time, I don't see such integration with the elements that the characters introduce in the game. So, for example, I'm actually now in the second campaign for that game. I hadn't played it before, and I'm playing with one of Slava's daughters, his youngest daughter, and she's actually killed because she's accused of killing the guy. This is no spoiler because basically it's the description part of the game. She kills her father. She kills Slava for some reason that no one knows which is really. She was a priestess. She was an apprentice to an angel, to one of the world's heroes apparently, and she's resurrected by her aunt that for some reason was a necromancer. She's kind of like one of those red priests from Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones game, PC game or video game, the RPG I mean, actually portrays one of these guys like returning to his family after a long absence. And she's kind of like that, but she's always present she's always nearby her family. She's taking care of Slava. She's a Slava, so she actually is training and taking care of Slava at first. And basically there are different factions, and it's okay, it's fine, but it's never really explained how it's never really integrated in the story how factions work. I mean, at the first games, you take Heroes 1 for example. The Iron Fist is going to be a knight, it's going to be a warrior, it's going to be a might character. And then you're going to have warlocks, you're going to have barbarians, you're going to have different characters, but you don't need an explanation because they're just lords. So yeah, it matches, it makes sense within the. I'm really getting used to it now. This game now. It really makes sense within the world. It makes sense, you don't have to. For instance, Jesus mother, what crap is that? Okay, I say that I'm getting used to it, and then all of a sudden something burns me to that. Fine. No. I'm not gonna save, I'm gonna load the game. Fine. So yeah, it's when you reach Hero 6, it's basically one thing that must be understood is that Hero 6 does not fit the old continuity. So Might and Magic may be entirely different categories here, and I don't know about them. You need to explain them to me. I mean, Heroes 5 was a bit clearer on that department, and if you're coming from that game and they're in the same world basically, might have a better comprehension of what the hell's going on. But Heroes classes, for example, aren't really explained in that game. 6, I'd say. It's somehow lacking, in a sense. Again, I like the game, so I'm not just being a fanboy of 3 or something. It's not just fanboyism, Find another one. It's easier for me to traverse another place. Yeah, I had come through here. And yeah, I mean, let me see. Do do I? Ah, yes, I have potions here. Good, that was what I was looking for. Strength potion. Some life. Now I can fight. It's easier. Safer to fight. Good. Sorry. And when you reach 6, for example, when you reach 6, so as I was saying, at first I don't even know why Svetlana, the name of the aunt. Why Svetlana is actually a necromancer? Just say that necromancers there are kind of like necromancers in Diablo. They are part of this special sort of a order of priests that respect death. Not very creative, by the way, but okay. Basically a copy-paste argument from the Diablo necromancers. Fine, so they could be the good guys. And fine. So I don't really understand why Svetlana ended up like that. There's never an explanation. I don't understand why these different classes emerge. They are not very organic. I mean, if you go to a fantasy world, you thinking of a warlock hero is something that isn't so out of the ordinary. It's not, because I mean, that's what people do in these kinds of worlds. They seek out magical powers, they seek out wisdom, to become these powerful mages, powerful warriors. That's part of the narrative. So when you see an Arcanist hero, you just think to yourself, oh, okay, that's basically a mage that became a hero because he has reached a special level of competence in what he does. Fantastic. That I can deal with, you know. I mean, basically it's a mage at the top of his career, at the top of his game. What's a necromancer then? Because it's not someone that's actually studying how to raise the dead. It's a priest that respects the dead, but at the same... I never liked this story, by the way, with the with Diablo necromancers. It's someone that studied the dead and respects the dead so deeply that they actually had to raise the dead for some reason. There are some interesting lore justifications. Some, but not many. And it's okay, fine. I mean, let's just say that I accept this. Fine. So you just raise your niece from the dead. She's there now. You're on an underground cave. You're basically just showcasing the subterranean world that a map can have. Fine. Why? Why are you there? Is that a mausoleum? What is that? You know, what is that place? But there you are in this corridor, and then you go from fight to fight, sometimes absorbing troops, sometimes fighting troops. Fine, okay. Can I destroy this door? It doesn't look like I can. So cool, and there are some potions there. Interesting. Yeah, so cool. Look at this. And so yeah, I mean, let me see if I can run through this door. No, I can't. Jump. Can't interact with it. Interesting. It's basically one fight after the other, and I don't know why what's the purpose of these fights? Because I understand that they are trying to show me how to use certain elements of the game. For example, how can I crop enemies? How can I move my troops within the map? Whatever. Fine, that I understand. But you just showed me that through two different maps with that is lava. So why again? You want to show me the distinctions between one type of troop and another? I mean, the Imperial troops and the Necromancer troops? One ridiculous battle is already enough. And more so, you don't have to manhand me through all these battles. You can't just let me lose in the map and let me. Oh, Jesus! What? I was talking. I wasn't paying attention. You don't actually have to just take me by the hand, you know? You could just let me loose in the map and allow me fireball spell, okay. And allow me some freedom for me to experiment. I mean, let me die. Let me commit mistakes. Let me make mistakes, you know? This is the nature of a game. It's not gonna break immersion if I die 10 times. I mean, I have died a dozen times in this game here, and I'm not done playing this yet. You know? I'm still here, I'm still playing the game. And simply because it actually poses a threat, poses a challenge to me. You know? So, yeah. I mean... I mean... I have, as that campaign started, I have fought, I guess, 4 or 5 times the very same battles. Not being able to see any sort of difference between the enemies. Was no freaking... Oh. It wasn't really even necessary to have all that. Not only that, but also the fact that I had well, if I use the trigger, they're getting crushed. That's cool. Look at that. Best way to kill enemies. You see, discovering these things is so cool. You know, little silly things that might not even be supposed to discover, but that I end up discovering. It's very satisfying. And what is Star's damage? Yeah, there's the trap here. One's doing stupid fair amount of damage. Huh. So you go through this cavern and it's very linear. Then you get some ghouls to your troops. You get some skeletons. And it handles it every 1 or 2 fights or 3 fights. It handles you new units, so you can test around and play around and see what they do. I mean, the game actually wrote a lot of this info for me already. Do you really have to? I mean, you want me to learn how to use something? Give me a freaking challenge. Let me test these bad boys against some real enemies. Within the angle of real action, you know? Because if you don't, what's gonna happen is that I'm just gonna get bored of your stupid tutorial. It's gonna break immersion because I'm not feeling like I'm playing the story, I'm just feeling like I'm being groomed for nothing, you know? And I remember, for example, when I played Slava in that game, that the only battle that I was actually enthusiastic about was the battle against this Inquisitor. Was in the end. It made a lot of sense because the Inquisitor was pissed off that you received orcs amidst yourself, because the orcs actually had tried to mess around with demons and they were pissed off because of this. And then the Inquisitor, there's an Inquisitor in the castle in the end of the map. By the end of the map. And there's actually a little surprise there that I found very enticing as well. But anyway, skip that. And I have to face this Inquisitor. I thought, man, he has a lot of troops. This guy's gonna be tough. I mean, I'm gonna have to think about what troops I use. I'm really gonna have to calculate what I'm doing, because if I miss, he has the walls of his fortress as well. He has tons of priests on his side, and then I'm actually fighting Imperial troops with my own troops. I'm actually fighting superior. I'm actually fighting people that the Emperor himself sent. I mean, his troops are stronger. They are more prepared. I mean, it's reflected because the troops are actually one level above yours. So they have if you have soldiers, they have kind of like paladins. If you have priests, they have if you have diviners, they have priests, and something like that, or something like that, something to that effect. And I thought, man, this is gonna be a cool fight. And fine, then I enter the castle. He just turtles there, and yeah. I mean, I just bombard the castle walls. He doesn't do much. And after that, I beat him. Yeah, that's it. I beat him. So it was sort of underwhelming, but that's what Heroes of Might and Magic is all about, you know. It's about building the right composition of troops, leveling up your character, building stories and leveling up your character up, choosing the right abilities and the abilities that make the most sense as you roleplay your character if you want to. These are the things that make a great game, you know. Fine, and then they just kill that for me because they put linear fights, easy fights. As I'm fighting, for example, with his daughter, Kid's Lava, I don't remember her name. She's basically, it's an interesting story because it's basically this romance that she developed with her mentor, and it's not very well written. It's badly written, you know. It could have been way more mature, way more interesting, but it's basically the worst of the teenage love affairs written in the worst of the ways. I'm sorry, but it's badly written. It's awful. I am sorry. I really am. But it's cringy, kinda. Oh, she says, oh, why? Because I shouldn't fall in love with an angel? Because I shouldn't fall in love with my teacher? Whatever, man. I mean, why shouldn't you? They clearly established in this world that angels are they're living, walking among humans. They aren't those holier than thou kinds of entities. They are kind of like fantasy races. Just as demons, they aren't just what we understand as demons. They're just creatures creatures that feed and stimulate bad feelings. And for anyone says no, that's not what a demon is. Believe me, it's not. So yeah, you don't even want to know the start of it. So yeah, let's just leave it at that. Okay. Wow, look at this place. And yeah, I mean, what the crap? Okay. But aside from the story, I mean, the entire I have to talk about the story at very least a little bit, because the entire section is just based on this. It's basically trying to pull itself out of God knows what sort of inertia it decided to inhabit. Not like this. And I mean, fine. Kind of could learn how to use this effectively anyway. Fine. And the entire section is just made to justify the silly story. So I can't really talk about it without it basically feels like they thought that this adolescent thing would keep the player distracted enough so the player would the arrows, wow, these are potent arrows, really, entering stone, my god. Okay, just penetrating stone. And it basically doesn't happen because she's just basically pulling the most basic of stacks and just shoving the stack through these caves, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing else to it. Nothing else to it. Feeling games being generous. I get scared when games get generous. Games like this, above all. Come again? I mean, you could have just put the lair here before I arrived. But no, you had to mock me, didn't you? I mean, you just had to screw me. I mean, you see, these little things, they're fun, you know? And so you basically shove the stack on and on and on, and you don't have to worry about position, you don't have to worry about your spells for the most part, you worry about nothing because it introduces no difficulty, you know? It's just all too basic. So it makes no difference if you're really trying or not. I see the cruelty of the thing now. Bravo. Bravo. That's not right. No, don't say that. It's kind of buttery. The controls are kind of buttery, I'd say. They slide a lot. So yeah, it's kind of like this, you know. And then you have such a limited amount of assets to begin with that it doesn't really make a difference. So going back all the way to the beginning of the discussion, I mean, you take this for example, you know, this is good design. I mean, you actually bothered to build a challenge instead of filler for me. You know, I'm actually feeling compelled to continue. I mean, I decided to play one level above the one recommended initially. I'm actually save scaling this game a lot while I talk here. But really, this game actually beat me to things like things that I used to play a lot back in the day, like Quake, for example, Baldur's Gate. I mean, let me see. Be very careful now, because I kind of want it all, but at the same time, I don't want to screw myself over. Don't scare me. Oh. So yeah, big empty room. Okay, here it is. Now you see, there's a... You see? Intelligently made. Really cool to play. Now, I'm a fan of this kind of design, you know? It actually shows you how it's gonna screw you. I mean, just see the labyrinth descending, you know? It creates that moment of disappointment, of utter, absolute disappointment. Of course. And just to see that what you thought would be a ride in the park just became way harder. Way more dangerous, you know. Oh yeah, and of course. Okay, less surprises. So these kinds of things, you know, make for interesting design. I remember, for example, sitting down to play. If you play the first campaign on Heroes 3, you're actually tossed on a real map right out of the bat, you know, and the story is actually happening, going on there. Maps, if you try to play matches, even matches have their own stories going on, you know. I actually took one of the little matches from Heroes 3 one of these days. I found it amazing, just because. Okay, just look at the design of this map. Look at this thing. And it actually tells the story. It's actually very humorous, and it starts telling the story of what a guy that wants to be the only lord in the land, kind of like the first one. It's kind of like a remake of the first game, you know. And it just shows how this lord is impatient and furious and unreasonable with his underlings, and how he's basically bound to fail because of this, you know, in a sense. And it's very cool, you know. I mean, the design is fantastic. So yeah. Anyway, I've spent like an hour and 20 minutes rambling about other games and game design and stuff like that, and it's just one of the things that I've taken a liking to design in general. Although I still have a lot to learn about it, and I haven't do anything with the spider. Oh yeah. But anyway, you know, look at this. Yeah, I love the way they mixed up one thing and the other. Spiders and the... Okay. What did you do? Ah, you poisoned me, a little bastard. Well, things are getting more and more ominous here. I mean, I have the pieces of a naked chest there, hands on one side. I have literal pieces of human beings here. These guys are, when they said this would be gory, they weren't joking around. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna break it up now. I'm gonna come back. So, okay. Oh, guys.